It's 12 o'clock. Welcome to Midday Live from our news hub here at Adisa Wikanda. My name is Efua Tieku. Top of the bulletin this hour. Laboratory technicians begin partial withdrawal of services across the country today. Health insurance providers proposes allocation of 1% of petroleum levy to sustain national health insurance scheme. Government set to begin mapping Ghana for effective land administration. And on the foreign front, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence warns North Korea's Kim Jong-un not to play with President Donald Trump. Stay with us for the next 1 hour for these and many more. Now to our very first story. Laboratory technicians on Monday, May 21, began a partial withdrawal of their services across the country. The partial withdrawal is in protest of what they describe as salary discrepancies, which have existed after the introduction of the single spine pay policy some 6 years ago. According to them, laboratory technicians with diploma certificates were supposed to be ranked as the same level as diploma-holding nurses, but the technicians say they have been made worse off due to the single spine pay policy.
The withdrawal of services is necessary because we have almost exhausted all avenues. It didn't start.
Tell me the avenues you explored. I mean, before we talk about exhausting it, you met with government?
We met with government,
the Ministry of Health,
Ministry of Health,
fair wages and salaries.
We have.
When was the last time you met the fair wages and salaries?
We've gone there for more than 17 times
within the first quarter of this year.
Not within the first quarter of this year. For the past 6 years that this issue started, we've gone to grievances, and somewhere 2012. We were referred to Complaints and Grievances Committee. The committees realized that our case is justified. The then Deputy Minister of Health wrote to Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to rectify the anomaly. They refused to do. And we have persisted. Several letters have been written. We have met previous government ministers, current government ministers, including the Minister of Labor. We have...
You get no feedback at all, or you get assurances?
Even somewhere in March, the Director General of Ghana Health Services wrote to the Fair Wages that this anomaly has existed for long and it should be corrected.
So that was the General Secretary of the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists, Michael Omaris, speaking on News at 10. That was yesterday. So, right now to some more stories. And Dr. Edward Kwapong, who is the Chief Executive of Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, has just joined me in the studio. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Kwapong. So now this issue with the medical laboratory scientists, they are accusing the commission of refusing to consider their request.
It's not exactly the case. They wrote to us. Indeed, they didn't write to us. They rather wrote to the Director General of Ghana Health Service, who in turn wrote to us, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, expressing their concerns about their placement on the single spine salary structure. We wrote back indicating that yes, the complaints that they are making may have merit, and therefore we looked at the structure relative to the grades and advised on where they should be placed.
Right.
In some instances, yes, what they were saying we respected. In other situations, we could not give in to their demand. But these we've written to the Director General, Ghana Health Service, and he, from the information gathered this morning, he has arranged to meet with them on Monday, the 28th of May, to engage them and to see how far we can quickly resolve these matters. So it's not like we have turned our backs on them. It's not like we are not willing to talk to them.
And this information has been communicated to them?
Well, from the office of the Minister for Health, or Minister of Health, yes, it's been communicated to them, and they are aware that come Monday next week, they're going to have a meeting with the Honorable Minister for Health.
Right, but in the meantime, they have withdrawn, it's a partial service withdrawal.
Yes.
Does this undermine the process?
Yes.
Because if they are in the know that they are supposed to meet the minister, why then have they withdrawn their services partially?
Well, perhaps I have to ask that question because...
So my question is, it does undermine the process?
Absolutely, because we have done the needful. The Minister of Health has shown goodwill. He has fixed a date for them to meet and to discuss these matters. And I believe, I have a copy of the letter we wrote to them here. And at that meeting,
is that an indication that perhaps they do not trust the system? Perhaps they have been down this road with you before, so they do not trust that the system would or the process would be completed. Is that the case?
It's difficult to say, but you see, matters of relativities in placement on the single spine salary structure, matters of job evaluation are not matters that we are able to deal with in a day. When you talk relativities, then horizontally, you are looking at other groups within the health sector, see doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and so you tread rather cautiously, and therefore we don't rush to deliver a decision. We oftentimes engage the aggrieved parties, discuss matters with them, explain to them, and it's some kind of negotiation. Then we come to a solution. So yes.
Dr. Koppon, how long have you been in the know of this particular situation of the medical laboratory scientists?
Well, it's been about 3 months now.
Right. When
they started the agitation, they wrote to us, we did the research, wrote back explaining why they were placed the way they were placed, in areas where we may possibly adjust going forward to ensure fairness and equity. That we have written. In fact, they didn't write to us. So it's the Director General who wrote to us. That's and right. We have responded to that letter. It's not like we can go directly to them.
So where does this leave the process right now? You are supposed to meet them. They have withdrawn their services. So how does the process move forward from here?
Well, I want to reach out to them through their ministry and through my own Ministry for Employment and Labor Relations. Call them over, talk to them, reassure them that going forward, Monday, we'll all meet and take this matter up.
Right. Many thanks to you. Dr. Edward Koppon is the Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Now on to some more stories. The long-standing controversy surrounding the University of Ghana and its operations will be laid to rest in the next 2 weeks. The Minister of Health says a committee set up to investigate the issue has submitted its report to the Chief of Staff. All outstanding issues regarding management is being sorted with the with the university authorities.
Something that has preoccupied almost all my time since I joined here. We are getting close to coming to a finality on the matter. A lot of money had gone into it. Nobody will want to see that place brought down. But we may have to be careful as to how that place can be run.
There has been public outcry as to why the multi-million-dollar facility remains dormant, although the center appears to be completed. The first phase of the 597-bed capacity hospital, initiated in 2012, was inaugurated by former President John Dramani Mahama in 2016. The super tertiary or quaternary facility, which is an extension of tertiary care in reference to advanced levels of medicine, can rival any world-class hospital. It has about 8 huge blocks which house an emergency center, an outpatient and administration block, a women and children's center, a medical training and simulation center, among others. The facility, constructed at a cost of $217 million, was still under lock and key.
We might have delayed in working on it, but it wasn't our fault. We never got adequate information initially. There are a lot of things that we've been hitting. We have uncovered. And as I speak, I believe we are very comfortable getting close to coming to finality with how we run our facility.
Finally, when you spoke to us about 2 weeks ago at the Ministry of Information, you mentioned that it was not about the management issues, but that it was not completed as we think. There were certain things that needed to be done. Does it mean that all those things have been sorted now?
No, I'm supposed to write a letter to the contractor to come and see how we can get that place ready for operationalization of the facility. And therefore, the committee that went in there were attested to the fact that that place was not as ready.
The facility, guarded by security personnel from the University of Ghana, had maintained a well-manicured environment. According to sources close to the University of Ghana, there had been many high-level activities, including meetings and the movement of heavy equipment into the facility. There were still workers on site doing minor finishing works.
I think I said I don't want to preempt these things. When I was quoted out of context and we were talking that the minister doesn't know what he was talking, there's a generator and all that. There is more beyond it. We will come out. I don't want to preempt what the entire committee that has been set up by cabinet want to come to say. So let us sit still a little bit and give ourselves about 2 or 3 weeks. We will see and hear what we all come out to tell the public of Ghana.
The minister assured Ghanaians of government's commitment to providing quality healthcare system and infrastructure and would not compromise any opportunity to do that.
The Health Insurance Service Providers Association of Ghana, HISPAG, fears the collapse of the National Health Insurance Scheme if government fails to introduce other funding sources. The association has proposed the allocation of 1% of the petroleum levy to sustain the scheme.
Our major challenges that we have as providers today is the delay in payment of claims. That is number one. Number two, delay in review of the tariffs. Now, the tariffs is what we use to bill the client who visits the facilities. As days go by, prices of goods and services continue to change. And as all these things are changing, it obviously affects provision of healthcare delivery services to the people of Ghana.
For how long has the tariff not been reviewed?
From 2015 up to today, we've not had any change in the tariffs. We've been using the old tariffs from 2015 up to today. But let's begin to question ourselves. How many times have the prices of goods and services had changed? How many times fuel prices had gone up? How many times spare parts prices had gone up? How many times, just imagine it. So you realize that the providers are at the mercy of the health insurance. And today as we speak, about 90% of the clients who visit the facilities are coming from the health insurance. Therefore, it becomes very difficult for the providers to get physical cash to support some other administrative expenses in the hospital if the health insurance doesn't pay.
But then have you communicated these concerns to the authority?
This has been communicated severally. It is upon that the president recently came out, and the vice president also reiterated it, that they have released some amount of money to the providers. But my brother, as I speak to you now, there are some providers that are owed for 15 months. Somebody will ask, where is the evidence? I have the evidence. Now, in 2016, September, October, November, December, bills have not been paid. And 2017, let's begin to interrogate how many months had been paid up to date. And then we are now in 2018. How many months had been paid? So when we are calculating, we know what we are calculating. With all these challenges, if not addressed, are we likely to see some of your members pulling out? They might not necessarily pull out. They will remain. But then they will use a system called co-payment, a system where the provider is expected to make some payment to the provider. That should be well understood. It should be well understood, because if the provider is not having money to procure medicines to serve another person who comes, and the medicine is given to somebody to go, and the provider is left without any medicine to attend to any other person who is coming, then why lies the hospital? It means the hospital should not even exist in the first place, because the hospitals are not only there to give prescriptions. Under the Ghana laws, the hospital are there to, one, give prescriptions and then provide treatment. So if the treatment aspect is not forthcoming, then I don't think we are living by the standards. We are of the view that at least 1% of the petroleum levy should be made available to the National Health Insurance Scheme. And if that is done, I can assure you, the financing gap which exists as a result of utilization and the premium and the claims would actually be eroded, and then we will start on a very good footing going forward as a nation.
Well, some commercial drivers in Kumasi want government to reconsider the implementation of the cylinder recirculation policy. According to them, the concerns of the Liquefied Petroleum Gas Operators Association should be addressed to ensure consumers don't suffer unduly after the implementation. A report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
Retail outlets in the Kumasi metropolis remained shut on Monday, leaving consumers stranded. Some affected taxi drivers pleaded with government to review the policy to enable members of the LPG Operators Association resume work.
This policy is not going to help and will render people unemployed. The distance to the filling station at the outskirts will not favor us. Wherever we go, there is no gas and we are largely affected.
The situation was, however, different at Gold LPG retail outlets as attendants served customers.
Executive Secretary of Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, Dan Kanamwa, says he expects the various stakeholders to engage further as to how to address the disagreements with the cylinder recirculation policy. According to him, the LPG retailers are resisting the policy due to the lack of assurance of they still staying in business when the policy is rolled out. He said this on TV3's business analysis program, Business Focus.
They believe it's arbitrary. And they believe that once you start categorizing who is high risk, low risk, once you start building recirculation plants, right, and you are not even allowing them the option of a competition. In fact, I have said that there's a middle ground to all of this, Alfred. Cylinder recirculation can work, right? You don't need to collapse the existing infrastructure or facilities. You can enhance them, their operations. Let me take you back. The incident at Atomic and the one at Trade Fair, they normally have not happened or been occasioned because of the LPG operating, selling or transferring gas into a cylinder that I took there to buy 20 cedis. They normally happen when the pressure bullet is receiving gas from the truck.
That's during the discharge.
The discharge. And normally there's a device that they are supposed to have, which is the suction pumps. Now I understand they cost about 4,000 USD. So some of them are unable to buy. And we have said that if we wanted to solve that problem, we can even procure for them and they pay monthly, right? Then you are solving the discharging, danger.
Live on TV3, and in today's report, our citizen journalist Ahmed Suleiman reports on the hanging cable which has become a threat to the people living in the Sanguli in the northern region.
These people have been here for a couple of months now. We are pleading on them to come and maintain this pole for us. See how kept this metal on the pole is. And one of the wiring, if you can see, it has removed from the main metal. This is very dangerous because in this northern region, we are aware of heavy rainfall and then heavy storm. It might cause a huge damage. This is Gamanche reporting from Tatali Sanguli.
So you can also file your report via MTN number 05514330044. The number again, 05514330044. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Stay tuned. We'll be back. You're welcome back. And in business this afternoon, Bank of Ghana has indicated that it would soon take action against Men's Gold after preliminary investigations found it was taking deposits without approval. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, was responding to questions at a meeting with journalists on Monday.
The Bank of Ghana, in the latter part of last year, warned the public not to deal with Men's Gold because it was not licensed to take deposits. Responding to questions at the Monetary Policy Committee media briefing on Monday, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, noted the institution is still taking deposits.
You remember we issued a notice concerning Men's Gold, and I think that the investigations are still ongoing. What is clear to us is that they have a system that accepts deposits from the public. That is becoming very clear.
He said the central bank will collaborate with the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry to finalize on Men's Gold.
We are trying to have discussions with the ministry in charge of, is it Lands and Mineral Resources, who originally gave them their license, right? So we are trying to have discussions with the ministry on the way forward in addressing the Men's Gold issue. But we are convinced that they are taking deposits. And we don't want to act alone. We want to have an action which will be also backed by another arm of the government.
The central bank argued that the company was conducting business contrary to some provisions in the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act 2016, Act 930. The company at the time denied that it was taking deposits from the public, insisting that they were just involved in commodity trading, buying and selling of gold. But the Bank of Ghana says it has enough information about the operations of Men's Gold.
Well, meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana has reduced the policy rate by 100 basis points from 18 to 17%. The governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, indicated the decision to reduce the policy rate was based on favorable external developments and domestic economic indicators, and also efforts to consolidate economic gains.
Ghana's total public debt has declined from 69.8% of gross domestic product of 142.5 billion cedis at the end of 2017 to 60% of GDP of 145 billion cedis as at the end of February this year. Domestic debt stood at 68.2 billion cedis, representing 47% of the total debt. External debt at end of February stood at 76.8 billion cedis, representing 53% of total debt. The governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, outlined some of the economic indicators that were factored into the policy rate.
Crude oil prices have increased by 11.5% since the beginning of the year to an average of $71.7 per barrel in April. Gold prices gained 5.4% to $1,334.9 per fine ounce. Cocoa prices firmed up by 39.8% to $2,664 per ton in April 2018. These developments translated into a positive trade and current account balance.
He indicated the decision to reduce the policy rate is also to consolidate and sustain economic gains.
Consequently, the committee decided to reduce the monetary policy rate by 100 basis points to 17%. The committee, however, stands ready to take the appropriate policy measures to address any potential threats to the disinflation path.
Ghana's gross external reserves as at the end of March 2018 was a drawdown of $513.9 million, in line with the projected cash flow for the period. The recent Eurobond issued has raised the level of international reserves to $8.1
$1 billion, representing 4.4 months of imports.
In other news, the Ghana National Gas Company has announced a planned shutdown of gas supply from the FPSO Professor John Evans Atta Mills from Monday, May 28. The shutdown, which is expected to last 21 days, is to allow for turret remediation works of the FPSO.
The exercise is not expected to affect gas supply from the Trinidad and Nyera in Tome or 10 oil fields, according to the statement. There will therefore be only a minimal loss of some power generation from VRA plants at Abuazi and the Ameri plant. It noted, however, that any loss in power generation from the west will be offset by generating additional power from the Tema area. The Ghana National Gas Company says it will institute measures to the extent possible to prevent any supply disruptions, saying it takes the responsibility to assure electricity customers and the general public that the power situation will be managed in the most efficient manner during the period to address any challenges in power supply.
And that's it for business. Now let's look at some more stories. And 31-year-old Elvis Owusu is one of the suspects who was wrongly picked up in the Kwabena cell break incident. The court only acquitted him together with 5 other suspects last week Thursday for lack of evidence. Elvis Owusu has been speaking exclusively to TV3 and says efforts to get his job back from his former employer has proved futile due to stigma.
I was picked from Kaswaninyano. It was at the dawn. I was asleep, I and my brother Theophilus Banda. And then they came to our place. But they came with a guy. And it was like the guy was pointing those who were amount of the case that. So they threw torchlight on us and asked, "Are you the one?" The guy said no. So they went to the next room. The guy said no. And the last room, that was a taxi driver. And the guy pointed, he is the one. But they take all of us to the police custody at regional central cells, including one lady. But they freed the lady that day. But as for the guys, they kept us there. Even as at now, I'm not feeling okay. I'm not feeling okay. I'm under treatment, and my brother Theophilus Banda, we are all under treatment. I feel weak, headache, coughing, a lot.
So what do you do now?
Now I'm jobless. I'm at home.
Where were you working?
Accra Mall, Lemas Family Restaurant.
Have you tried going back?
No, they have replaced me because of I spent almost 4 months at the police custody. So they have replaced me.
What do you plan to do now?
Okay, I've spoken to my lawyer, so that one I'll leave it to my lawyer what he will say.
What do you mean you've spoken to your lawyer? Explain to me.
Okay, that one is personal, so
yeah. Means you have a lawyer now?
Yeah.
A government will in the next 2 weeks start advertisement for interested companies to apply for the bid to fly over and capture all parts of the country in high-resolution orthophoto. Minister for Lands and Natural Resources John Peter Amewu said this as part of plans to digitize the administration of land in the country by the end of 2018.
In March this year, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia reiterated the need for the automation of land administration in the country. The newly constructed Ashanti Regional Lands Commission Office Complex in Kumasi will be the beginning of the automation and digitization of land administration. Lands and Natural Resources Minister John Peter Amewu, together with his deputy Benito Osubio, paid a visit to the facility, which is about 98% complete.
What is left is the furniture, the other necessary items that to commence the daily operational activities. We're expecting that by the close of June, it will be ready for the regional office, of the Land Commission.
When completed, land administration in the country will now move from the manual system to the digital system and will also help put an end to the alleged corrupt practices in land administration processes. The minister explains in order to achieve this, a complete map of the entire country needs to be captured.
The country needs to be covered with high resolution photos, and so that is what it's going to do. And I'm sure within the next 2 weeks the advert is going to come up for competitive companies that are interested in flying over this country to capture the orthophoto to bid for the project. There's only one flying season and we don't want to miss that, and it's about three men down the line. And so we want to work as fast as possible to make sure that we meet that deadline for the companies to be able to fly over and develop the map for the country.
The integrated office complex will house the Office of Administrators of Stool Land, Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, Land Evaluation Division, Survey and Mapping Division, Public and Vested Land Management Division. The project is funded by Ghana government and the World Bank at a cost of $15 million and it's expected to be commissioned by June.
Now you're watching Midday Live on TV3. Now, staff occupants of the Accra Technical University accommodation pay 65 cedis for a 3-bedroom flat. According to the 2015 Auditor General's report, the university has refused to review its rent charges since 2012, although management set up a 6-member committee to review the rent charges. According to the Vice-Chancellor of the university, Professor Edmond Ameko, the failure to review the rent charges is to encourage a lot of the staff to take up the flats. So joining me currently on the phone line is our reporter at Parliament House, Mercy Darling Loco. Mercy Darling, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Efwa.
Now, so who takes up the utility charges of the staff?
Okay, so before 2012, the university, the Accra Technical University management was taking care of electricity as well as water bills of these occupants in their accommodation. But in 2014, the school wrote to the electricity company of Ghana asking that they provide occupants with prepaid meters in 2014. So from 2014, we have had occupants paying for their electricity bills, but the water bill is still being paid for by the university as it stands.
Right now, so how much was lost as a result of the non-compliance with the directive by the university's management?
An amount of 46,326 cedis have been lost as a result of the non-compliance with the directive by the management and the council as well. So currently the acting vice-chancellor of the university has said that management has set up a committee to review the rent charges and they have submitted a proposal for consideration. So they are working and ensuring that the right things are done, even though it's not appropriate. He thought that they should have gone the way it went. Before I go, I would briefly chip in the fact that if we recall, the Speaker of Parliament directed that the 2 ministers of state and the 2 ministers for the interior and the defense should appear before the House to brief them on the clashes that between the police and the military in Tamale. Today, we had the Interior Minister, Mr. Ambrose Derry, appearing before the House and answering questions where he's saying that they are working towards ensuring that the right things are done and the security of the country is not compromised. They have promised to deal with any member or personnel found culpable in last week's clash. He also indicated that a 5-member committee has been set up to investigate the attack. The Speaker has therefore directed that the 2 ministries should submit to the House the findings of the 5-member committee that has been set up after they complete their work.
Thank you very much. Mercy Darling Loco is our correspondent from Parliament House. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. We'll be back shortly after this break. You're welcome back. Policy think tank Imani Africa is mounting pressure on governments to abrogate the $89 million Kelny GVG deal with the Communications Ministry. The Communications Ministry says Kelny GVG, among other things, will monitor the mobile money interoperability system. Speaking on New Day, founding president and CEO of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo, maintains the deal is needless and a rip-off, but Deputy Communications Minister George Anda disagreed.
Now, when you talk about obsolete equipment, right, it is a total untruth, okay? Because if Franklin has read the terms of the contract, the equipment is supposed to be refreshed, apart from the first set of equipment, it's supposed to be refreshed twice over the period of 5 years. Okay. So as at the time that there's going to be a handover at the 5 years, you're going to get the latest version of the equipment based on the upgrade, the system upgrades that have been done. So it's not true, okay, what Franklin is saying. Number two, Franklin is saying that there's automatical renewal after 5 years. It doesn't stand to reason. If there's automatic renewal after 5 years to make it 10 years, wouldn't the framers of that contract would have just said, assign it for 10 years? It doesn't make sense to you that I will sign a contract, or you and I have an arrangement. We want the thing to be for 10 years, but we'll put inside that it is 5 years automatic renewal. Then just do it 10 years automatic renewal. Franklin should show me where in the contract, okay, that this automatic renewal.
I don't think George has read the contract. Contract term proposed is 10 years, contrary to the 5 years of the existing contract as indicated in page 2, clause 2, and in Annex A, clause 7, subsection 1 on page Roman numeral 7. What is it talking about?
Where is automatic renewal? He tell me where is automatic renewal he's talking about.
You are not even understanding the language.
What am I not understanding?
Your contract term is 10 years, contrary to the 5 years of the existing contract, because you are automatically renewing it, and it's there on page 2.
Where is automatic renewal?
I'm showing you. Can you keep quiet, please? I didn't interject. Page 2, clause 2, Annex A, clause 7, subsection 1 on page Roman numeral 7. Go and read it. So it's a 10-year contract. Don't say that it's not. It's 5 years. Listen, this is bad deal, not value for money. You don't pay constant fees for something you are going to find that you probably wouldn't find.
Okay.
Nobody does that type of business. In fact, as you sit in your studio now, you are being rated and team. That's what they do.
This is Midday Live on TV3. Up next is sports.
Sports news segment is brought to you by Cowbell.
Hi, good afternoon. It's time now for sports here on Midday Live. My name is Yao Ofusulabi. Now, Arsenal are set to appoint Unai Emery as their new manager. Manchester City assistant manager and former Ghana's captain Mikel Arteta was a strong favourite to succeed Arsene Wenger, but that deal could not go through. Now, Unai Emery has emerged the unanimous choice following a recruitment process in which all candidates were spoken to. The 46-year-old Spaniard is available after leaving Paris Saint-Germain, where he won 1 league title and 4 domestic cups in 2 seasons in charge. Previously, he guided Sevilla to 3 consecutive Europa League triumphs from 2014 to 2016. Now, still on this issue, former Arsenal forward Ian Wright has questioned the club's board over what he perceives as a mix-up policy on the appointment of the new manager, Unai Emery.
If you're a manager and you're coming in and everybody's saying, well, he's a number 2 and now he's coming in as a number 1 on this multi-million-pound business, don't you think he should try and be able to get the people he wants in and around him so as he can have the best possible chance to do the job that he's going to take on? Why would they not give him that opportunity to do that? And what, as Unai Emery come in and said, well, okay, you don't want me to have that, I'll still do it if you want me to. That means almost, it's like you're going for the cheaper option. Yeah. You're going for the option that's a little less risky, might not cost us as much. He doesn't want as many people behind there. That's not what Arsenal fans want to hear right now. I think it's Gazidis. The way that all of a sudden, once we found out Arsene Wenger is no longer going to be there, it's Gazidis is the one who's put himself up to answer questions. It's Gazidis. I think it's Gazidis. At the end of the day, Unai Emery feels like he's the man for the job. Obviously, that's why he's taken it. And for whatever reason he's got it, you just hope that when you listen to the different opinions about him, whether he's defensive, attacking, whether he can manage or not, you're just hoping that in this time that he is going to do the right job for Arsenal, because they do need quickly to start gaining ground back on the teams that are in that top four, and so hopefully he'll be able to come in and do that.
Now back to Ghana now. The debate about Kwesi Appiah's squad for 2 friendly games involving the Black Stars against Japan and Iceland is getting intensive. The Ghana boss has dropped some big-name players while concentrating on a number of young players.
Kwesi Appiah has been shaking some tables as Black Stars manager whenever he has named a squad, and his latest for 2 friendly games has been no different. The team travels to Japan and then Iceland for their first games of the year, and Appiah's collapse has provided a clue age-old tensions in the team. How he is preparing for the exit of its most prolific goal scorer, while also suggesting that while there may not be many players at the highest level of European club football, there is a good base of steady youngsters the country could rely on. Former Ghana international has his concerns about the squad though.
You know, when you are building a new team, you need some old ones that they already used to the team to try and help the new ones. But all the same, the coach knows what he's doing, and he's trying to give others opportunity to show. For me, I think I'm surprised, a little bit surprised about Jordan not being part of the team, because this season he played very well, helped Swansea, best player of the season for his club, score some important goals, over 10 goals as a striker. For me, I think he deserves to be in the team, but all the same, I respect Kwesi Appiah's decision.
The omissions of Jordan Ayew is a subject that will not just go away given his fine form this season. But in his place, Appiah has Emmanuel Boateng, who scored 6 times in La Liga, including a hat-trick against Barcelona, and Rafael Jamina, who managed 13 goals this season, despite a traumatic experience of seeing a proposed move to England fall through over health concerns. Football analyst Sadiq Adams says on the balance of it, Appiah's squad bodes well for the future.
The signal is one of rebuilding. The coach has made a very big statement of starting a new team. So if you look at the current squad, there are a lot of fresh faces and some returnees, but average age of 25, to say it's a team that you would want to count on for much more than 5-6 years before they reach their peak, and by that time you're looking at the Qatar 2022 World Cup.
Appiah will hope the squad vindicates him. The Ghana coach claims every game is a chance to expand the talent base of the Black Stars. Results will be the best indication of how well that is going.
Now striker Harry Kane will captain England at the World Cup in Russia. Manager Gareth Southgate has announced earlier today. Now the 24-year-old Harry Kane scored 41 goals in all competitions last season for Tottenham Hotspur as they finished 3rd in the Premier League. Elsewhere, Manuel Pellegrini has been appointed West Ham United manager on a 3-year deal. The 64-year-old former Manchester City and Real Madrid manager flew in for talks after leaving his job at Hebei China Fortune over the weekend. Final negotiations were concluded on Monday night, allowing Pellegrini to return to the Premier League. He succeeds David Moyes, who was released at the end of his contract after guiding the Hammers to a 13th place finish on the English League log. Now, more big names have tumbled out of the World Cup after Argentina and Spain both named their squads for the tournament on Monday. Argentina coach Jorge Sampaoli has dropped Inter Milan striker Mauro Icardi despite the forward finishing the season as the Italian Serie A's top scorer with 29 goals in 34 games. Another Serie A player, the midfielder Raja Nainggolan, has also been dropped by Belgium. Meanwhile, Spain coach Julen Lopetegui has also dropped Chelsea quartet of Cesc Fabregas, Pedro, Alvaro Morata and Marcos Alonso from the travelling party as the La Roja seek a second World Cup title since 2010. The only Chelsea man, though, who makes the squad for Spain is Cesar Azpilicueta. The man has been a very, very good player for them in there. So these are some of the names that are missing, as well as Arsenal's Hector Bellerin. He's also missing the World Cup in the Arsenal fullback. But to our very last story this afternoon, And Isaac Dogbe is in celebratory mood almost a month after boxing his way to the world title status in the United States of America. The World Boxing Organization's super bantamweight champion was back in his hometown over the weekend as a guest of the Awomefia of Anloland, Togbisi. It was all joy for the people of Anyako Kpota as they welcomed a native of their town who had gone on and conquered the world. Dogbe was returning home weeks after winning the WBO Super Bantamweight title against Jesse Magdaleno in Philadelphia, and for the people of Anlo, it was a momentous occasion for them. In attendance were chiefs including the Awomefia of the Anlo land, Togbisi clan heads, leaders of the Apostolic Revelation Society where Dogbe worships, and the people of Anyako and its surrounding communities. Dogbe, in a bid to stay in touch with where he hails from, joined them in a choreography and donated items to aid development of the town. The newly crowned champion says he is happy to have given back to the community.
Our only prayer is that God should continue to give us victories, to continue to put us in great positions, so that one day we can continue with the work that we have started, that we are giving back to the less privileged. We are giving hope back to the people.
Some residents of the community could not hide their joy after the event.
Isaac have once again raised the Ghana, once again raised the name of Prepota, once again raised the name of Africa. So we are so happy.
I'm just so proud and so happy about Isaac today, because we all hope and then we all follow him, praying towards the success, and then we have the great success that they've done by conquering Macareno. So we are all happy, thanking the Lord and celebrating whatever. And it's proud that it's come from this village and it's from the Voltal also.
Right, so on that note, we end the sports segment here on Midday Live. My name is Yao Ofosulabi. Up next is international news.
Vice President Mike Pence has warned North Korea's Kim Jong-un not to play President Donald Trump if they meet next month. Pence said in a Fox News interview that such a move would be a great mistake by the North Korean leader.
Mike Pence also said there was no question that Trump could walk away from the June 12 summit. North Korea has threatened to pull out of the meeting after comments by U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton. The country reacted furiously when Bolton suggested it would follow a Libya model of denuclearization. Libya's former leader Muammar Gaddafi agreed with Western powers in 2003 to dismantle his program in return for the lifting of sanctions. 8 years later, he was killed at the hands of Western-backed rebels. North Korea is also angry at current U.S.-South Korea military drills and has halted talks with the South in response. South Korean President Moon Jae-in plans to meet Mr. Trump in Washington on Tuesday to discuss plans for the summit. Meanwhile, a group of journalists from the UK, US, Russia and China have flown into North Korea from Beijing to cover the ceremony marking the dismantling of the country's nuclear test site later this week.
Meanwhile, Head of International Relations Department at the Webster University, Dr. Agnes Kojisi, has warned any instability in the Asian region will impact negatively on Ghana's existing trade relations with China and South Korea. Dr. Jisi told Natalie Fort the peace process must be smooth in spite of threats by North Korea should the United States insist on unilateral nuclear abandonment.
Less than 12 hours before the meetings were set to begin, North Korea reverted to old form and indefinitely postponed a scheduled sit-down with South Korea. In a statement carried by its official media, North Korea said it was foregoing the meeting due to ongoing military exercises by the US and South Korea, which it said violates the spirit of the summit agreement. On the other hand, North Korea threatened to call off the summit with the US if the United States insisted on unilateral nuclear abandonment. Head of International Relations Department at the Webster University, Dr. Agnes Kojisi, says this does not portray Kim Jong-un as not being committed.
if you talk about nuclear capabilities, there are more countries than North Korea in East Asia and in Asia in general that have nuclear capabilities. So Kim Jong-un is not completely too far from the truth when he said that you can't have a peace process that is unilateral. So denuclearization has to be reciprocal, it has to be equitable, it has to be bilateral or even multilateral.
When asked why the developments between North Korea and the United States should be a concern to Ghanaians and Africans in general, this was her response.
Many Ghanaians will be asking themselves the question, what does this mean for us as Ghanaians and Africans? Why should we be so concerned of what exactly is happening between Korea and the United States of America?
Ghanaians are very comfortable and very familiar with Samsung Androids. We drive Hyundai cars, we know about Kia cars. So the economic cooperation between South Korea in particular and Ghana has been really sort of increasing and intensifying over the years. Not to mention that South Korea, as a member of the OECD, has the obligation to be a donor of development cooperation aid, and Ghana is one of the recipients of Koreans what we call ODA, Overseas Development Assistance. So any sort of instability in the Korean Peninsula can potentially affect the investment flow and also trade between Korea and Ghana.
The North Korea-United States Summit is a planned future meeting between North Korea's Kim Jong-un and the United States President Trump. It's set to take place on June 12, 2018.
And that's it for international news. Up next is entertainment.
Cases of abuse and violence against women keep popping up by the day. Victims are in most cases left traumatized, with many being maimed.
What did I do wrong? Did I commit any crime by falling in love and getting married to you?
Saddened by the high spate of abuse against women, 23-year-old filmmaker Della Finn set out to discourage the vice.
Oh, this is not right. The victims are suffering, the culprits are going scot-free, but nothing is being done. Someone might say, as a young filmmaker, what do I know about love? We knowing something about love at this age, it's all boils down to how Ghanaian parents raise their children. The kids see and learn quickly. If you are beating your husband or your wife in front of your kids, they are learning it.
His latest short movie, Abused, outrightly speaks against abuse of any form, whilst encouraging victims to speak up.
We will bring you the concluding part of that in a subsequent bulletin, but that will be it for Midday Live on TV3. For more news, you can also go to 3news.com. My name is Efwatiku. Good afternoon.